Thumbs up, right on. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. Thank you for joining. This is the um, more recent iteration of the support group conversation. This is Tom Cooney, I'm the Director of Support. Got hopefully our management team and others on the call as well. The slides were linked into the meeting invite and the document for the group conversation agenda. So we can pop into questions there. Philippe has the first question, I believe. And
it's not really a question. I just wanted to send kudos on the first slide. The first slide, conversation starters. It's a bit like when you're in a conference and you see people with things on our badges saying, "Ask me about this kind of things." It's a great idea.
Excellent.
If there is no question from anyone, I will get started. I see on slide 7, Git host was sunset. How was Git host impacting support? Were we supporting Git host somehow? Not sure.
Yeah, we've been supporting Git host at least since I joined about a year and a half ago. Impact wasn't huge. We had a small team that was doing support for them. And the customers were kind of split between GitLab CE and enterprise users. So sometimes their SLAs fell into sort of the self-managed bucket. A lot of what we did was doing things like maintenance of the application, backups, things like that. But now we are not doing that, which I'm very happy.
Maybe you could just remind what GitHost was doing. We have a lot of newcomers that might not be aware of what GitHost was.
Yeah, so GitHost was a product where we were doing essentially self-managed, except for we managed it. So it was single tenant instances of GitLab that we installed, maintained, updated. It was actually, I mean, it's a great product. I'm a bit sad to see it go because I think that it kind of fit a really interesting market, especially companies that needed data warehoused in a certain country. They could choose where they wanted their data to be housed. But priorities have shifted, and so that is no longer an offering. Many of our customers have moved over to .com. Others have moved, if they had sort of a requirement of having a single tenant, then they moved over to either hosting themselves, or there's a few other sort of third parties that have been popular.
Thank you.
And Lyle, is it safe to say on that we still have a couple of contracts that will carry us over the sunset day?
Yeah, there's 3 contracts that are carrying us over. All of them have signed professional services agreements to move them over to GitLab.com. There's a few, I mean, that stuff just takes time. So it's not a problem. But the main application will be kind of like going away. We're going to, over the weekend, what we did is we put a banner saying, this is done. We archived all the projects so they couldn't push or pull. And then we're just kind of letting it sit so that people can get their last backups. If they panicked, I mean, we sent out 1,000 notifications letting them know that this was happening. So thankfully, we got maybe 3 real tickets over the past week, and most of them are about making sure that backups were working as expected. So lost my train of thought, but that's where we're at.
I'll add something. This is Lee here. Lyle and I spent a lot of time talking about how to minimize the risk of shutting down so many instances on one day. I want to give a shout out to Amanda from the support team as well. She did a lot of work to get those messages out. So far, so good. We haven't had an increase in people, but there were many instances, and my biggest fear was just that we were going to create our own avalanche, and we did a lot of work to avoid that, and we haven't created an avalanche yet. So we're just still waiting with bated breath to make sure that it doesn't show up, but that's the biggest risk with something like this for our team. And I see John Woods threw a question in there. What is the latest on the hot queue model of support? I'm a little bit congested, so hopefully you can understand me. If you're not familiar with hot queue, it's the type of anyone in support can move an issue forward. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. Move a ticket forward. It allows tickets to follow a follow the sun model, so that multiple groups and regions can pick it up and work that ticket, so that tickets do not languish. That is still in place. There is what we've been calling a hybrid hot queue model that we're exploring that involves a little bit more custodial relationship. So one person will be point on coordinating with other people. Obviously, the biggest risk we have here is just that tickets get assigned to someone and then they're not out, or they're not in for a day or two, or something gets dropped and then our customers suffer. So that's what we're trying to pay the most attention to. There is some movement recently on this. The other thing that I'll add, and then we'll move on, unless there's any follow-ups on this, we've recently deployed what we call areas of interest. This is a huge shift for us. We've been working with the support engineers and support agents on the team, and the majority of the team wants to be involved with all of GitLab, the product, but it's huge. So we're trying to figure out the best way to not create support specialists in the scope of they only know CI or they only know LDAP, but instead, how can we hone in a little bit? And so we're experimenting with what we call areas of interest. There are some links in the slide deck around that, and you could always pop in and ask us questions if you have any more. So that's where we sit with hot queue. Hybrid hot queue, areas of interest are kind of the next layers there. Lau, you want to take on the next one?
Sure. Philippe, do you want to verbalize your question?
Sure. On slide 6 and 8, I see a trend that is a bit crossing on the GitLab.com. The trend seems to go down a bit. And when I say go down a bit, I don't want to minimize your work. Absolutely not. I know a lot of companies that would be absolutely jealous of having this kind of numbers. But I see a trend that is going down for GitLab.com and going up for self-hosted. Is there something to explain that?
I would say one of the challenges we have on GitLab.com is since it's a separate team that's servicing .com specifically, but it's also a small team, coverage can sometimes be a problem. There's also just the volume is a lot lower. And so any ticket that we miss a first reply SLA on will hit us quite hard. So that kind of, I think, explains the .com side. On the self-managed side, you'll see there's sort of a larger dip around the time of contribute. And so those first replies, it wasn't actually during contribute, it was sort of post contribute. We missed some of those first replies during that time. And that's why it looks a little bit more like it's going up. I think most of them are holding fairly steady. But one of the things that we're working on this quarter is we're calling it the one team model, and we're trying to make it so that GitLab.com agents are able to answer some self-managed, and self-managed can answer some .com, so that we're cross-pollinating a little bit more. We're addressing some of the issues of coverage on .com, and we're also able to make sure that we're leveraging the people that have the expertise at the feature level on self-managed.
Yeah, one of the things that I'll add there for post-contribute, we did a lot of pre-contribute planning to make sure that we'd keep it up, and during contribute, and we did. You can't even really tell where contribute was looking at this graph until you see the drop after contribute. So we have to figure out, it seems that the majority of that was having most of APAC time shifted played a factor, and we're trying to think wherever the next summit is, we have to take into account. We seem to have a good coming in strategy, going out strategy is what we have to work on. Things to learn, exciting though. Mech has one in there that I don't know the answer to. Mech, you want to verbalize that?
Sure, thank you. So does Sendesk link, sorry, does the Sendesk light availability apply to bot access as well? The context, it could be just read only. The context here is that we would like to pull some data from Sendesk, so it's available in the ticket for escalation, and the label will be sanitized, like medium, large, etc. without any sensitive numbers?
I can answer this. What it sounds like you want is an API token, which we can definitely
Exactly.
generate, but you can't get an API token with a light account. So we'll have to bring that for you.
Got it. Okay, that answers the question. Thank you. We'll reach out.
Mech, there's also this data in theory should be getting piped to some of our like data warehousing and things. So I don't know if that would help you. I don't know. Maybe there are a couple of other ways. I think the best way, if you don't have an issue, let's get an issue and see if there's what the right solution is. API token, light agent, yeah, or data warehouse or some other type of system.
So the context here is that from conversations at Contribute, for product managers to have a single pane of glass view when they decide whether to put it in this milestone, next milestone or not, it should just be there readily available in the issue, right? If you have multiple tabs opened, this is faster for them.
Sounds great, exciting. Other questions, other thoughts, other concerns? Anyone else playing paintball this weekend? While congested?
So is that the paintball move?
Yeah, that's how you
Yeah.
got to dodge them, like the
Yeah,
Matrix.
So you're warming up and getting ready. Nice.
I thought it was a Lee excited move.
It is both a paintball, dodging the Matrix.
It'll be the next emoji. While we have some open time, I was going to give a shout out to our recruiting team. Cindy specifically.
Sorry, it's inspired by the Matrix. We had a Matrix party this weekend. It was a lot of fun.
Show us the Matrix move.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, I was just giving a shout out to Cindy. She came on, kind of took a support under her wing, and we've made some really great progress on hiring. We've adjusted the model, as you can see in a couple slides, on what our hiring ramp is going to look like, and she's adjusted right with us. So thanks to her, she's keeping us well on track in all regions, and prioritizing in areas where we're a little slower to hire. So wanted to call her out for some great work being done.
Tom, how many changes, how many improvements to the docs is the support team making on kind of, I'm not sure where you have stats, like a weekly basis or something like that?
Yeah, we were actually had this available in our metrics review, but I forgot to bring it out. Lee had gone in and done some research since we started to track it. I think our initial metric was a 51% of tickets had a MR link or a doc link and that sort of thing. Since that point, we've moved up to 59% of our tickets now.
That's impressive.
Right, so we're climbing. We're certainly putting a big emphasis on that, and so I think it'll continue to grow. And we've got a couple of other OKRs inside trying to get the support team to keep focused there. So it has continued to grow. That's
very impressive. Do you feel like empowered to add very kind of, this is like a once in a lifetime event. This is probably not going to happen again, but I'm going to put it in the docs under troubleshooting. Is that do you feel empowered to do that? Are we getting pushback from people that say support is adding too much to the docs, or is that not the case?
I have not sensed that. I'll certainly open it to Lyle or Lee if they've sensed that, or anybody else on the support team if they've gotten that impression. But I think there's more acceptance, just that, yeah, anybody, let's get it going. Let's improve them, especially on the troubleshooting side. It helps everybody, whether it's, implementation engineers or new support folks and all that. So we've got a couple things going on to try to help our onboarding piece. So I think we can encourage the continued documentation updates and that from a support perspective. So, but I haven't got that sense. Anybody else on the line that has, feel free to counter.
No, I would agree with you there. I think that we've had great support in getting what we need out of the docs, and I haven't once felt pushback. Anything that we've said, like, hey, we think this is valuable to add, we get, checked and format style guided and whatnot. And the docs team has been a great help. So yeah, I haven't felt anything like that.
Great. I'm glad to hear that's going well. I'm really excited about like pushing that percentage up, and it makes the people already enthusiastic about our docs, but having those like nitty gritty details in there, I think is amazing. And I'm glad that everyone can contribute. A mission that we have that's being that we're living that, and that we're accepted, that everyone's accepting of these additions.
I want to take 1 second to give a shout out to Joshua Lambert for the new architecture diagram, which does show how complex GitLab is, but that's already come in handy many times for me. So that's been great. So I want to give a shout out there as well. Everybody making docs, that helps support. So help us by making docs and keep improving docs. That is super, super valuable.
And he did an awesome job on that. I told him to make that because it wasn't great, and it's much improved. I'm now slightly worried about keeping it up to date, like how we're going to do that, and make sure this doesn't happen again, where we say we have 9 services. In reality, we have 31 services that run GitLab. But yeah, he did an awesome work, and I think it's so much information. It's such a clean table, and the links are super helpful behind every icon. So well done.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Noticed Cynthia's shout out to the docs team as a continued discussion on the doc collaboration. So there's nothing else. We can call it a meeting. All right. Thank you all. Thank you all very much.